Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Please don't ask why, as no one quite knows the reason. It could be that his head wasn't screwed on just right, or it could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all was the Grinch's heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, Grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town, for he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. And then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find a way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early and they'd rush for their toys. And then the noise. The noise, 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 noise. That's one thing he hated, was the noise, 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 noise. But then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They'd feast on Who pudding and on rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. But then they'd do something that the Grinch liked least of all. All the Whos down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. And they'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat. Then he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. He chuckled and clucked. What a great Grinchy trick. Why, with this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. Now all I need is a reindeer. And the Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there were none to be found. Did that stop the Grinch? The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, then I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. And he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh. And he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, giddy up! And the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. The Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care when he came to the first little house on the square. This is stop number 1, the Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist, and he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, so could the Grinch. And he got stuck only once for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns, bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn and plums, and he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. And he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And he grabbed the tree, and he started to shove when he heard a small sound, like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was no more than 2. Well, the Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said,
Why, Santa Claus? Why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?
But you know, that Grinch was so smart and so slick that he thought up a lie. And he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. "There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. He patted her head, he got her a drink and sent her to bed. And when little Cindy Lou had gone to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. The last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was too small for even a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other whose houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other whose mouses. What happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say, the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the moment his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. He brought back their presents and the food for their feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. The end.